People ask me from time to time which tires I use on my bike. So in this video, I'm going to show the tires that I use on all of my bikes. All of the tires that I'll show in this video will be Maxxis with the exception of one tire. And that's simply because I like Maxxis tires. They don't sponsor this channel in any way. I just really like the features that Maxxis offers on their tires. And of course, I like the way that they ride. So with that, let's start with the cross-country bike. I recently made a change on the cross-country bike. So up until a few weeks ago, I was running a Recon Race on the front. It's a 29, of course, by 2.35. I always get, of course, tubeless ready, and I also get the EXO sidewall protection, and then an Icon on the back, which has pretty low rolling resistance. It's a 2.2. Both tires that I just showed are 120 TPI tire. I try to run 120 TPI, especially on the cross-country bike, just because it's more supple. It's a little bit lower rolling resistance and the cornering grip is a little bit better. And by the way, the Recon Race is also a pretty low rolling resistance tire. And so this was a lightweight, fast tire combination, but with winter and leaves and pine straw on the trail, I needed a little bit more grip on the front. So I recently switched to a Recon on the front. And I think this is a really good combination. In fact, when the Icon on the back wears out, I'm going to put this Recon Race on the back. Again, a really low rolling resistance tire on the back, a 2.35, and then the Recon on the front. Now this is a 2.4, so it's a little big for a cross-country tire, but again, I needed something with really good grip. My preferred tire width for cross-country is around a 2.35 to 2.4 max in the front, and then about a 2.2 to a 2.35. I would probably go with 2.2 most of the time in the back. It makes the bike just a little bit lighter, corner just a tad better with that smaller tire in the back. But the Recon Race on the front has some really good corner knobs, really good shoulder knobs, and they bite really well through the leaves and the pine straw that are really prevalent right now in the winter months, and it will continue into the spring, by the way. So oddly enough, where I live in the spring, we get these leaves that fall off the trees as new growth appears, and they are a super slippery leaf. So I'll probably have this tire on the front up until the summer months. So that is the cross-country bike setup. I'll throw in a fun fact for you with Maxxis tires. So if it's an aftermarket tire, so it didn't come on the bike, it's going to be a yellow logo. And typically, if a tire comes on a bike, it will be a white logo. So this is the tire combination that came with my trail bike. So we're moving over to the trail bike now. So this is my transition spur. On the back, there's a Recon. It's a 29 by 2.4, also a 120 TPI tire. And by the way, the Recon that I showed on the cross-country bike was a 60 TPI tire. And as far as I can tell, if it doesn't say 120 TPI on a Maxxis tire, that means it's a 60. And the only reason I have a 60 for the Recon on the front of my cross-country bike is because the 120s were not available. So I'm filming this during the COVID epidemic where bike parts are hard to get, and I just didn't want to wait. And on the front of my trail bike is a Maxxis Dissector. It also is a 2.4. So this does not say 120 TPI, so I'm going to assume this is a 60 TPI. Again, this is what I found with Maxxis. Like I showed with the other tires, this is tubeless ready, and it's got the EXO sidewall protection. Now this Dissector is beefier than the Recon, and it's a great combination for a trail bike. So like the cross-country, the front tire is a little bit beefier. So the Recon is still a pretty beefy tire. So again, the cross-country bike, it was on the front. This bike, it's on the back. And that's a great combination for a trail bike, which is designed to handle a little bit more rugged terrain. So this tire has some really nice cornering knobs, and it's pretty low rolling resistance. And I'm super happy with this tire combination. In fact, I've done some time trial tests. You've seen my videos probably where I've tested this bike against my cross-country bike. And this particular tire combination was super fast on my cross-country bike. And I had a lot of cornering grip on these tires. And honestly, that's really what convinced me to go with a regular Recon on the cross-country bike now instead of the Recon Race, because I was super fast on this bike with the extra cornering grip on the front. So this is the combination for the trail bike. Again, a 2.4 Dissector in the front, and then a 2.4 Recon in the back. Now talking about the Enduro bike. So the Maxxis tires that I use on the Enduro bike are actually not on the Enduro bike right now. So my Enduro bike is a Transition Sentinel, and when I got the bike, I immediately put on some IRC tanking tires. And the reason that I did that is IRC had sent Dawson and I a set of those tires, in fact, a few sets, and we really liked those tires. I was in the midst of testing them. I wanted to keep the testing going, so I put them on my Transition Sentinel as soon as I got the bike. And by the way, the IRCs have been super bomb-proof. No flats. They hold air almost better than any tire I've ever used. So that's a tire I can also recommend. They have a pretty similar tread pattern to the Maxxis tires that I'm about to show you that I'll be using on my Enduro bike coming up this season, because it's time for me to go back to Maxxis on the Enduro bike simply because I just want to try these tires. And so the rear tire for my Enduro bike is going to be a Maxxis Minion DHR2. It is a 2.4. It's also a 120 TPI tire. It's got the Exo sidewall protection, and of course it's tubeless ready. And by the way, the weight of these tires and the IRCs was about the same. That's another reason I said, well, let me just keep using the IRCs for a little while. So again, the rear tire on my Transition Sentinel Enduro bike is going to be the Maxxis Minion DHR2. And on the front is a tire I've actually never tried before, and it's the Assegai. It also is a 120 TPI tire, and it is a 2.5. I've heard a lot of really good things about this tire, so I'm really stoked about trying it. It's brand new, never been on a bike, but you can see the knobs on both the Assegai and the Minion DHR2 are really beefy, and that speaks to what an Enduro bike is for. It's going to be a heavier tire. It's going to feel sluggish at slow speeds. It's going to feel more sluggish on the climbs compared to the Dissector that I showed on the front of my trail bike, and of course the Recon on the back of the trail bike. But that's, again, what an Enduro bike is for. It's not meant to feel lively on the climbs or lively on cross-country trails. Enduro bikes are made to just kind of get you to the top without a shuttle and then pin it on the way down and have really good grip. Typically in Enduro, you don't know what kind of conditions you're going to encounter, especially if you're racing. It could be wet and slippery. Now, these aren't probably tires that I would use in super wet, nasty conditions, but those aren't conditions I typically encounter yet. I mean, I'd like to get into some Enduro racing coming up this summer. But again, this is a pretty big, beefy, heavy tire. I mean, look at that. It's almost like a motorcycle tread pattern. Those knobs are huge. Look at the side of that. So again, I'm really super excited about trying these tires. So that is the Enduro bike. I'll finish it off with a gravel bike. So up until recently, I've been running a Schwalbe G1 on both the front and the rear, 40C, which is my preferred width for gravel. This is a pretty slick tire. And so what I did was, when the rear tire wore out, I took the G1 that was on the front and moved it to the rear, which, by the way, that's the only direction you want to go when you change tires. You can go from front to a rear, but you never want to take a rear tire and put it up on the front. And so when I did that, I got the Maxxis Rambler. Now, I've used the Rambler before and really like this tire. So this is also a 40C tire. And the reason that I like the Rambler is because it has some cornering knobs and some shoulder knobs, which when I take the gravel bike on single track, which is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to be underbiked on single track sometimes on a gravel bike, but I just get much better corner and grip for the front tire. As you know, it's okay to have the rear tire slip out, but if you have the front slide out, you're pretty much going down. So this also is tubeless ready, Exo sidewall protection, 120 TPI. So the Rambler is a great tire. It also works well on the rear. I've used that combination in the past. I'm inserting this scene because there was something I forgot to mention when I was originally filming this video, and that is there's another benefit to the knobs on the Ramblers. It seems to me that they give the tire more plushness, more cushion when you're on really rough gravel roads or even single track. And I've had someone else say that, so I don't think it's just me. So compared to something like the Schwalbe G1s, which have really small knobs, if you can even call those knobs, the Rambler is just going to have a more compliant feel. So those are the tires that I use on all of my bikes, pretty much all Maxxis with the exception of one tire. So I'm not saying these are the best Maxxis tires for all of these situations. I'm saying it's what I use, and I can recommend it, but there are other Maxxis tires out there and you need to do your research. One of the YouTube channels that I really like to watch for tires is Jeff at Worldwide Cyclery. I'll find a couple of his videos and link those below. So Jeff, if you watch my channel, I hope you don't mind me putting your videos in the description, because he does a really good job. He's also a Maxxis tire fan, and he covers all the different features of Maxxis tires and There was one video that I watched a few months ago where he covered like the whole range of Maxxis tires for mountain biking, and he did a really good job. So I would recommend watching that video. And so that'll wrap it up for this one. As always, questions or comments, go ahead and drop those below. Thanks for watching.